sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. Number 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities. Karma Kand. Number 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Number 10. To not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to achieve the desired success, Krishna Prem. So once again, welcome to today's call and thank you very much for joining us. Moving on to our next session, which is Srimad Bhagavatam class. I would let all the devotees on the call to please go ahead with their introductions now.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Radha Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Aditi Devi Dasi in Edmonton, Canada.
Hare Krishna, Aditi Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Radha Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, and all the glories to the assembled devotees. This is Manjri Leela Devi Dasi from Naperville. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Manjari Leela Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Radha Mataji. This is Kamala Dasi from Baltimore. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj and all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Kamadika Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Radha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devi Dasi from Texas College Station.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Lakshman Leela Priya Radha Mataji. Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Radha Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Anita Ramya from Sharjah.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Prabhupada. All glories to Guru Maharaj. All glories to assembled devotees. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Lakshmi Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karuna Devi Dasi from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Karuna Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Radha Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Ravana.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranams, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and the assembled devotees. This is Revati from Atlanta, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Revati Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam to you and all the Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada and from Atlanta.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Mataji. This is Valli from Naperville, Chicago. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Valli Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. We're extremely fortunate to have Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji here with us today. And Mataji would be enlightening us by discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, and verse 15 and 16. But before we dive into this nectarine class, I will request Nishita Bhakti Mataji to share a brief introduction about our today's very own speaker, Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji. So Hare Krishna, Nishita Bhakti Mataji, Dharmat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, and over to you.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to serve. So, Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji did her chemical engineering from MS from Rama Institute of Technology, Bangalore, Masters at Anna University, and later studied environmental engineering at University of Houston. She got married to a wonderful Vaishnava, His Grace Srinivas Jagannath Prabhu. After getting introduced to Krishna consciousness around 2009, she took initiation from His Holiness Radhana Swami Maharaj in 2015. She is an exemplary devotee, a great scholar, and has in-depth knowledge of Shastras, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. She is an eloquent speaker, and the way she narrates various stories from scriptures feels like a grandma narrating stories. She narrates pastimes in a sweet voice with so much expressions and enthusiasm makes it the listener envision them in front of their eyes. She is one of the main administrators of Bhakti Sangha Japa Conference Group, which is a virtual temple for many devotees. Her dedication, sincerity, and management skills, along with humble attitude, is an inspiration for many devotees, and it has taken this Bhakti Sangha Japa group to great heights. She has served in Houston, Atlanta, Bay Area, and Chicago temples in various capacities. She conducts several classes in various forums and inspires many devotees in their path of Krishna consciousness. She is a good cook too. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for that introduction. Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam. Super excited to see you here today. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, and thank you very much for giving us your valuable time and association this morning and enlightening us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. But without further ado, I'd like to request you to please take over from here. Hare Krishna.
Please unmute yourself,
Unmute
Mataji.
yourself, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Leela Priya Mataji. It's such a pleasure to hear from you, the morning introductions, and thank you, Nishtha Bhakti Mataji. Thank you, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, for this very wonderful opportunity. It's a nice feeling to not only be a listener, but also to be on video and then interact with the devotees in the early morning call as well, besides the mid-morning. So thank you all so much for this very wonderful opportunity. Thank all the devotees on the call, all the organizers, coordinators of Bhakti Sangha.
We also thank you, Mataji, for taking this opportunity in the last minute. Very grateful to you, Mataji.
Thank you all. Okay, so we'll get started. We'll get to the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 7, chapter number Canto 7, chapter number 3, verses 15 and 16. and I'll read the verse, the translation, and the purport, and we will discuss chiefly from the purport today. Na dadarsha pratichannam valmika trinaki chakaihi pipili khabir achirnam medastvan mamsashonitam tapantam tapasa lokan yata bhrapihitam ravim vilakshya vismitah praha hamsam sam hamsavahanaha. Synonyms: na, not; tadarsha, saw; pratichannam, covered; valmika, valmika, keep this in mind, ant hill, by an ant hill; trina, grass; kichakai, and bamboo sticks; pipili kabihi, by the ants; Chiranam, eating all around, eaten all around; Meda, whose fat; Twak, skin; Mamsa, the flesh; Shonitam, and blood; Tapantam, heating; Tapasa, by severe type of penance; Lokan, all these three words; Yata, just as; Abhra, by clouds; Apihitam, covered; Ravim, the sun; Vilakshya, seeing; Vismitaha, struck with wonder; Praha, said; Hasan, smiling; Tam, to him; Hamsavahana, Lord Brahma, who rides on a swan airplane. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Brahma, who was carried by a swan airplane, at first could not see where Hiranyakashipu was, for Hiranyakashipu's body was covered by an anthill and by grass and bamboo sticks. Because Hiranyakashipu had been there for a long time, the ants had devoured his skin, fat, flesh, and blood. Then Lord Brahma and the demigods spotted him, resembling a cloud-covered sun, heating all the world with his austerity. Struck with wonder, Lord Brahma began to smile and then addressed him as follows. So this is the meeting of Brahma and Hiranyakashipu when Hiranyakashipu was performing austerities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The living entity can live merely by his own power without the help of skin, marrow, bone, blood, and so on, because it is said, Asangohi ayam purushaha. The living entity has nothing to do with the material covering. Hiranyakashipu performed a severe type of tapasya or austerity for many years. Indeed, it is said that he performed the tapasya for 100 heavenly years. Since one day of the demigods equals 6 of our months, certainly this was a very long time. By nature's own way, his body had been almost consumed by earthworms, ants, and other parasites, and therefore even Brahma was at first unable to see him. Later, however, Brahma could ascertain where Hiranyakashipu was, and Brahma was struck with wonder to see Hiranyakashipu's extraordinary power to execute tapasya. Anyone would conclude that Hiranyakashipu was dead because his body was covered in so many ways. But Brahma, the supreme living entity of this universe, could understand that Hiranyakashipu was alive but covered by material elements. It is also to be noted that although Hiranyakashipu performed this austerity for a very, very long time, he was nonetheless known as a Daitya or Rakshasa. It will be seen from the verses to follow that even great persons who could not perform such severe austerity. Why then was he called a Rakshasa or Daitya? It is because whatever he did was for his own son's gratification. His son Prahlad Maharaj was only 5 years old, and so what could Prahlad do? Yet simply by performing a little devotional service according to the instructions of Narada Muni, Prahlad became so dear to the Lord that the Lord came to save him. Whereas Hiranyakashipu, in spite of all his austerities, was killed. This is the difference between devotional service and all other methods of perfection. One who performs severe austerities for sense gratification is fearful to the entire world, whereas a devotee who performs even a slight amount of devotional service is a friend of everyone. Sukhridam sarva bhutanam. Since the Lord is the well-wisher of every living entity, and since a devotee assumes the qualities of the Lord, devotee also acts for everyone's good fortune by performing devotional service. Thus, although Hiranyakashipu performed such a severe austerity, he remained a Daitya and a Rakshasa. Whereas Prahlad Maharaj, although born of the same Daitya father, became the most exalted devotee and was personally protected by the Lord. Bhakti is therefore called Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam, indicating that a devotee is freed from all designations and Anyabhilashita Shunyam, situated in a transcendental position, free from all material desires. So this was a very, very nice purport, very elaborate. It has many key points. Prabhupada always painstakingly writes beautiful purports, and these purports are worth churning out. So that will be the agenda for today. All that we are going to do is we are going to take out sections from this purport and churn it out. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi पाश्चात्यादेशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. My humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas on the call. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So first we'll build context to this verse. After the death of his brother Hiranyakashipu went and consoled his relatives with beautiful words of wisdom about the nature of the body and the soul. That is something we saw in the previous chapter. However, owing to his demoniac nature, he had absolutely no intentions to follow what he had preached. He was deeply engrossed in a material concept of life, though he spoke very wise words. He was extremely angry with Vishnu. So Hiranyakashipu, at this point in time, he wanted to become immortal. He wanted to live forever, and he wanted to take revenge for whatever had happened to his brother. He didn't want to be conquered by anyone. He didn't want to be attacked by old age or disease or harassed by any kind of an opponent. So he wanted to become the absolute ruler of this entire universe. With this kind of a desire, he entered the valley of the Mandara mountain and he started performing very severe austerities and meditation. So seeing this Hiranyakashipu engaged in this kind of austerity, the demigods thought, okay, he's doing some sort of tapasya, so he's not going to bother us. So let us go back to our abode. So they all went back to their respective homes. But then what happened was Hiranyakashipu, as he was engaged in this kind of austerity, a fire began to come out of his head, and the heat of this fire was disturbing the entire universe and its inhabitants. So not only the demigods, but also the birds, the bees, and humans, and everybody, they were scorched by this heat that was emanating from Hiranyakashipu's body. So like this, when the entire higher and lower planets became too hot to live on, the demigods understood that this could be because of the austerities that is performed by Hiranyakashipu. So they were very disturbed now. They again left their heavenly abode and they went to see Brahma. So they prayed to Brahma and they said, "Oh Brahma, you are the father of this universe. This Hiranyakashipu is performing such intense austerity and heat is emanating from his body. So you please curtail this unnecessary heat. And the demigods also tell Brahma that Hiranyakashipu has this ambition to become immortal. He even wants to conquer your position as well. He wants to become immortal. And he doesn't want to have this kind of duration of life. He wants to live forever. So that is his intention. So about once Brahma heard this purpose of Hiranyakashipu's meditation, Lord Brahma decided to actually go and talk to Hiranyakashipu, to go and give darshan and then at least stop the continuous heat that was emanating. So he decided, okay, let me go and give him the desired benediction because he's performing such intense austerities and meditation towards pleasing me. So let me just go. So thinking like that, Lord Brahma, accompanied by sages like Bhrigu and the Prajapatis like Daksha, they all together, they went to see Hiranyakashipu. So this is the context of this verse. And this verse says, when Lord Brahma, who's carried by a swan airplane, arrived there, he could not see exactly where Hiranyakashipu was because Hiranyakashipu's body was covered with an anthill by grass and bamboo sticks. This is what happens when a person sits in a steady position without changing or any movement. It appears that this person is dead. There is nothing there. So slowly with time, anthills and all the dust and the grass and whatever is there in the forest, they all accumulate over that place where this person is sitting and they get covered. So this is what happened in Hiranyakashipu's case. The translation says, because Hiranyakashipu had been there for a very long time, the ants had even devoured his skin, fat, flesh and blood. And Hiranyakashipu, you can imagine, he was so absorbed in the austerity that he did not even realize that his body was being eaten. So that was the intensity of his absorption. Then Lord Brahma and the demigods, they spotted him. How did he look? Because he was emanating so much heat, he was like the sun. But then the sun in the sky is always very clearly visible, right? But here Hiranyakashipu was not even visible because of this anthill and everything around him. So the beautiful analogy Bhagavatam uses is, it says he appeared like a cloud-covered sun. So when the sun is up in the sky, even if it is covered by the cloud, the sunlight and heat emanates from the sun, right? Though we cannot see the sun disk from here because the cloud has temporarily covered it, still the energy of the sun is felt, the heat and the light we still perceive. So like that, the entire world was perceiving this heat that was coming from the austerities performed by Hiranyakashipu, but Hiranyakashipu himself was covered. So it appeared like he looked like a cloud-covered sun, eating the world with his austerity. So looking at this great effort done by Hiranyakashipu, Brahma was struck with wonder and he smiled, thinking, what a great austerity. He must be really keen on achieving something. So he smiles and he begins to address him. That is the exact verse of today. Now, when we start analyzing the purport, the first thing Prabhupada mentions in the purport is that a living entity survives merely by his own power, even without the help of a body consisting of skin, flesh, blood, and fat. This is interesting. It is actually the spirit soul that holds up the body. The spirit soul is very, very tiny. We read from the Upanishadic statements that it is 1 by 10,000 part of the tip of the hair. You cannot perceive it even by a microscope. So basically, our jiva, actually we are the jiva, right? We are spirit soul. The me is actually the spirit soul, not the body. So this spirit soul is extremely tiny. But which holds up what? Is it the body that holds the soul or the soul that holds up the body? It is actually the soul, the jiva, that holds up the body or carries the body and not the vice versa. In Hiranyakashipu's case, although his body was practically eaten up by everything, all these ants and bugs, still he continued to exist. That soul continued to exist. This means that the body is completely different from the self. However, we tend to identify the body as the self, right? That is our nature. Why? Just like imagine you're seeing a dream. The dream itself is not factual. The dream is temporary. It is an imagination. It's an illusion in oneself, the dream. But sometimes a very unpleasant dream can leave an unpleasant experience. So the experience in a dream may not go away for a very long time. It will stay with us for a very long time. Similarly, we identify our body as the self because we are strongly associated with the body for a very long period of time. However, a living entity has nothing to do with this material covering. So at this point in time, Hiranyakashipu's austerity was so severe that although his body was practically eaten up, it was not bothering the soul. The soul per se was there. It was not being affected by the covering of the body. That is the first point Prabhupada made. Then Prabhupada goes on to talk about the severity of the tapasya. So when Hiranyakashipu was executing this tapasya for a very long time, how long? 100 years in demigod calculation. So it was for a very, very long time. He was there performing this austerity for hundreds and thousands of years. And as a result, Hiranyakashipu had become oblivious of his body that worms and parasites had eaten it up practically. So his entire material body was not even seen. That was the power of tapasya. But Brahma, who is a great personality, he could understand that the soul is still present there. That Hiranyakashipu is still there beneath this anthill, though the body itself is almost non-existent. So for him, it was very evident. For a great person like Brahma who knew the truth, it was extremely evident that Hiranyakashipu is still there. Now, focusing on the kind of tapasya, the severity of tapasya, let's understand first what tapasya means. What's the definition of tapasya? Tapasya means voluntary acceptance of bodily pains. You voluntarily accept it so that you can achieve something higher at the end of life. That is the meaning of tapasya. So Prabhupada, in some of the quotes and lectures, he says, tapasya means I'm feeling some inconvenience, some bodily pain or inconvenience, but I am tolerating it. Restraining from the demands of the body and tolerating such demands is called as tapasya. Sometimes Prabhupada says just to tolerate the itching sensation in our body is like a tapasya. Why are we doing that tapasya? Because we don't want to increase the intensity of the wound. So if you feel, if you have some maybe eczema or something, okay, you feel like itching. It is normal. I have lots of eczema on my skin. So I feel like itching all the time. But then if I restrain from itching, I don't want to itch, I wait and I apply some ointment without itching, then in the long term, it is good for me. So I tolerate that itching sensation and I wait. I don't act on it. That itself is a tapasya. So this is the very simple basic definition of tapasya. In fact, in our movement, we have the 4 regulative principles. It is natural for us to give into the needs of our body, but when you tolerate it for a higher purpose, that is austerity. So that is one simple austerity we all follow in Krishna consciousness. But however, here we see the intensity of the tapasya of Hiranyakashipu. It was so intense that he was not even aware that his body was existing because it was eaten up by all these worms and parasites. And the air was just circulating through his bones. 2 verses later, Prabhupada writes this. It is amazing how the life air was circulating within the bones of Hiranyakashipu because practically everything was eaten up. Only the bones were remaining. And there is also a beautiful picture. I won't say beautiful, but there is a scary picture rather. A nice painting, actually a good depiction of Hiranyakashipu's tapasya where only bones are there, but still his life air is moving. So let's compare now this kind of tapasya to another personality who performed intense tapasya. That is Dhruva Maharaj from the 4th canto. So we all know how Dhruva Maharaj wanted to have a kingdom greater than that of his great-grandfather, who is Brahma. Right? Similar, I mean, not really similar, but the mood is very different. Here, Hiranyakashipu wanted to take over the position of Brahma. He wanted to become the ultimate controller and he wanted to live forever. Whereas Dhruva Maharaj, he was hurt by the words of his stepmother and he wanted a kingdom. He was not against Brahma, or he didn't want to destroy Brahma, or he didn't want to destroy anyone for that matter. But he wanted a kingdom that is greater than even Brahma. What kind of austerities did Dhruva Maharaj do, and what was his mood? If you see the 4th canto, chapter 8, verses from 76 onwards, it describes the intense austerity that Dhruva did. So it is quite, you can kind of make a light comparison between the two kinds of tapasya. It is very similar, yet it is somewhat different. So we'll see that first. And then as we proceed in the class and we read lines from purport of Prabhupada, we'll see more examples of such austerity and make comparisons and try to understand what really austerity is, what kind of austerity is recommended in Shastra. So let's go to Dhruva Maharaj. By the 5th month, Maharaj Dhruva, who was the son of the king, had controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was able to stand only on one leg, just like how a column stands without motion. So even when you read how Hiranyakashipu was performing austerities, he had his hand raised and he was looking up and he was meditating. That's how it's mentioned. Similarly, here Dhruva, who is the son of Uttanapada, he had controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was able to stand on one leg, like how a column stands, even without motion. And he was concentrating his mind fully on Parabrahman because he had received the mantras from Narada Muni. So it was all Krishna conscious. So now he completely controlled his senses and other objects. And in this way, he fixed his mind without diversion to anything else. And his mind was absorbed in the Supreme Lord. So like this, Dhruva Maharaj captured the Supreme Lord, who was the refuge of total material creation and who is the master of all living entities, and the 3 worlds began to tremble because of the intensity of austerity. Here also we see Hiranyakashipu was performing intense austerity, and all the 3 worlds were actually trembling because of the heat coming out from the austerity. There also we see all the 3 worlds were trembling because he was completely fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his austerity had become very intense. So like this, when Dhruva kept himself steady, standing on one leg, the pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth, just like an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the boat left and right with every step. So you can imagine sometimes in olden times in movies and all these movies on Ramayana, Mahabharata and all that they would make, or even television serials, the soaps that you see, they would show that the screen would be shaking when someone is performing great austerities. Suddenly the rivers stop flowing and then the mountains stand still, the wind is still. So like that, here it's beautiful comparison, very dramatic comparison is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Just like when you put an elephant into a boat, okay, and the elephant takes one step after the other, the boat starts rocking. So like that, with the pressure that Dhruva Maharaj was putting with his big toe, it appeared that that heaviness was practically shaking the entire earth, and the 3 planetary systems were getting affected. They were trembling. So like this, Dhruva Maharaj, he becomes practically one in heaviness with Vishnu, and who's the total consciousness, because he had closed all the holes of his body. The air was arrested in the body, and the total universal breathing became choked up because the air was arrested in Dhruva Maharaj's body. And similarly, just like how it's happening here in the case of Hiranyakashipu, all the great demigods and all the planetary systems, they felt suffocated and they went and took shelter of the Lord. Okay. Now, what is the difference between the intensity of tapasya of a devotee and a demon? We all know that Dhruva Maharaj is a devotee. He also did tapasya. The effects of the tapasya were very similar to a demon doing tapasya as well. It appears that the process and the effects are the same. But then what is the difference between a devotee and a demon? To clarify that, Prabhupada, he writes in this purport, the 3rd point in this purport is, tapasya should be done for the right cause. Though he performed intense tapasya, Hiranyakashipu is called a demon. Not even great sages could perform such austerities. However, what was the intention of his austerity? The intention of Hiranyakashipu's austerity was for his own sense gratification. That was the intention. So though he performed austerities very similar to Dhruva Maharaj, Hiranyakashipu is called a demon because his intention is different. He's doing it for his own sense gratification at the cost of others. Now you might think, okay, even Dhruva Maharaj did it for sense gratification in one sense. He wanted a kingdom, right? But then the components involved in the austerity was different. Hold on to that point and we will discuss that very soon. Okay. So here Prabhupada says he had intentions of sense gratification at the cost of others. That is the implied meaning. He didn't care about others, but it was only about him. It was his sense gratification. Now, we saw that tapasya should be done for the right cause. You should have a proper intention and you should perform tapasya like Dhruva Maharaj, not like Hiranyakashipu. Prabhupada has told that in the purport. Now, a secondary question may come out of this point, whether tapasya is really good or not. First of all, basic question, is this tapasya even needed? Is it really good? Is it good or bad? Or is it recommended in scriptures or is it not recommended in scriptures? Why are people even engaging in all this tapasya? That can be a very, very basic question that springs from this point about performance of tapasya, that you should do it for the right cause. So to answer that question in the Bhagavatam itself, in Canto 5, Chapter 5, verse number 1, Rishabhadev, who's an incarnation of the Lord, when he's talking to his sons, he had about 100 sons, right? Some of them became Kshatriya, some of them became Paramahamsa, some of them even became Brahmanas. And just a little off track, but Prabhupada, he writes beautiful purports on the teachings of Rishabhadev, where at one point he says, this itself shows that once Varna is not decided by birth, because the 100 sons of Rishabhadev, each one became a different Varna. Some were Paramahamsa, some were Kshatriya, some were Brahmana. So, but however, the very first teaching, the first verse of the teachings of Rishabhadev begins with this beautiful teaching. Rishabha uvacha Nayam deho deha bhajam raloke kashtan kaman arhate vidpujam ye tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhyet yasmad brahma saukyam tvanantam. Rishabhadev told his sons, my dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard all day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs, hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity. So what is the teaching? It says one should engage in penance and austerity, tapo divyam, to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified. What is the result of tapasya? Why are you doing tapasya? You're doing tapasya for purification of heart, for nothing else. Tapasya will result in purification of heart. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness, which continues forever. So, is tapasya recommended? Yes, it is recommended. Is it good? Yes, it is very good. Why? Because it purifies the heart. So when one's heart is purified, what happens? Your material happiness increases? No, your material happiness doesn't increase. You become transcendental to material happiness and you get a happiness that is continuing forever, which means you become fully Krishna conscious. If your intention and the components of the tapasya is aligned properly. Now, continuing in the same line, is tapasya recommended in the Shastras? Yes. The very first instruction given to the very first living entity was tapa. When Garbhodakashayi Vishnu created Brahma from his navel, you all know how Brahma came into existence. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, he goes and he sleeps in half of the waters of the universe, the Garbhodak ocean, and from his navel, a lotus stem springs out, and then there is a beautiful lotus flower on which Brahma sits. Brahma did not understand how he came into existence. He was thinking, what is the source of my existence? He was searching and searching for a very, very long time. And finally, he hears what? So 296 says, while thus engaged in thinking in the water, Brahmaji heard twice from nearby 2 syllables joined together. One of the syllables was taken from the 16th and the other from the 21st of the Sparsha alphabets, and both joined together to become the wealth of the renounced order of life. The P, 16 and 21 of the Sparsha alphabets is the P. That is the very first instruction who receives, even the very first living entity receives. What to talk about us? Even Brahma receives the same instruction, tapa. So human life is meant for tapasya, as Rishabhadev said. But what does tapasya do? It should purify the heart. If tapasya purifies one, then the question is, why did our Hiranyakashipu not get purified? Right? It's logical. Here Bhagavatam says tapasya should purify, you should do tapasya, human life is meant for tapasya. Then what happened? What went wrong in the case of Hiranyakashipu? Why did he not get purified? The answer is, while performing austerities, the intention is extremely important. Why you are performing the austerity, and not only the intention, the components involved in the process of austerity very importantly matters. What are the components of that austerity? If you look at the story of Dhruva, Dhruva also had a different intention. We can't say it is as gross as Hiranyakashipu, where he wanted the destruction of universe and only he wanted to survive. It's not like that. Dhruva was very mild. He just wanted a kingdom. It was still a materialistic intention. But what were the components of the austerity? The practice involved bhakti. He was expertly guided by Narada Muni, who was a devotee. And what did he say? He asked him to perform devotional service. He asked him to worship the form of the Lord. He asked him to chant a mantra that is directed towards Lord Vasudeva. So chanting a mantra that involves the names of the Lord. So like this, that entire process of austerity had a lot of bhakti components. That itself is very, very purifying. We see one more example in Bhagavatam. At the end of the 6th canto, the last chapter of the 6th canto is the performance of the Pumsavana sacrifice. Who performed the Pumsavana sacrifice? It was the mother of the demons, Diti Devi. She performed the Pumsavana sacrifice. She also had evil intentions, like her own sons, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. She also had evil intentions. Why? Because her sons died. For the sake of Indra, the Lord killed her son. So she was very agitated. She was thinking that, oh, my sons, oh, they have died. So I want, something. I want to, in one sense, take revenge. That was something in her mind that, oh, why did my sons die? I have to do a sacrifice in such a way that I have children who can conquer Indra. That was the intention she had. But Kashyapa was very intelligent. Initially, he felt, oh, I've been royally cheated by my wife. We have all read this in the 6th canto. The classes were very elaborate on the 6th canto. But then Kashyapa was also very intelligent, just like Narada Muni. He knew how to purify his wife. Narada also understood Dhruva's intention may be material, but it is easy to purify him. If you give him bhakti mixed with austerity, he will get purified. Similarly, here, Kashyapa Muni, he thought, my wife is not all that bad. I can give her, she's ready to listen. Because, and Prabhupada in one of the purports, he says, that is the nature of a woman. She takes instructions very sincerely and she's ready to execute it. When he speaks about Diti, he writes that. So, here, Diti, she received instructions from Kashyapa with great attention and she was ready to execute whatever Kashyapa said. Kashyapa tricked her and made her to perform devotional service in the form of the Pumsavana sacrifice, which is austerity, intense austerity. If you read that entire chapter, it appears impossible. But Diti Devi, she did it. And what happened as a result? She did not get a son who would go and kill Indra. Rather, she gave birth to the 49 Maruts, who became great followers of Indra. And not only that, because of performing this devotional austerity, even Indra got purified. Because Indra came and took association of Diti at that point in time. In the garb of serving her, he wanted to find faults in her austerity. And he was able to find faults. But then at the end of the story, Indra becomes so friendly towards Diti, and he even reveals his mind, saying that I had bad intentions initially. I wanted to find a fault in your austerity, and I wanted to destroy your children. He goes and cuts those children into 49, right? But then as a process of the austerity itself, taking the association of a person who's performing the austerity, even Indra gets purified. So it's a very beautiful story. How austerities itself are not wrong, or it is not that austerities are not recommended in Shastra. But we should always bear in mind two things. One is, what is the intention? Second, does it have devotional component? This verse itself, right, the translation itself, when you read the translation, you see Hiranyakashipu was covered by an anthill. And I asked you to keep the name of the anthill in mind. It's called a Valmika. So when you hear this word Valmika, whom do you get reminded of? Anybody can guess it?
Valmiki.
Very beautiful. Yes, Valmiki. Yes, another person who did intense austerity was Valmiki. Because he emerged from an anthill, he's called as Valmiki. Valmika means anthill only. That is only the meaning of Valmika. One who emerged from the anthill, just like Hiranyakashipu. In one sense, Hiranyakashipu is also Valmiki only. But who is celebrated as Valmiki? A person who did positive austerity, like Valmiki Muni, who wrote the Valmiki Ramayanam. So this, yeah, Ramayanam. So this is Valmiki. He came from a Valmika. Well, this Valmika gave birth to Valmiki in one sense. Not that he was born from an anthill, but he emerged from an anthill. So that's why he's called as Valmiki. Now, what is the story of Valmiki Muni? Prabhupada, in one beautiful lecture, I was just writing down the points from the lecture that Prabhupada gave. He says, Valmiki Muni meditated for 50,000 years and he wrote the Ramayana. The Ramayana is not an ordinary book, you see. Therefore, Ramayana is so popular throughout India. And what Valmiki Muni was, he was a dacoit, he was a plunderer, he was a highway thief. He used to plunder innocent men on the road and kill them and take everything from them. This was his business. Such a cruel person. He was very grossly cruel. But then by chance, he was associated with Narada Muni, and Narada Muni rectified him. This is the process. When a devotee meets even a dacoit like Valmiki Muni, he can become a great sage like Valmiki. Narada Muni elevated so many fallen souls. This Valmiki Muni was also one. So he gave him a mantra. He gave Valmiki to chant. This was the austerity Valmiki had to do. What was the austerity? Prabhupada says he had to chant Rama. But this person was so cruel, this Valmiki. He was so cruel. Ratnakar, I think his name was. He was extremely cruel. He was so cruel that he could not even chant the name of Rama. Because to chant the name of Rama, you need some piety. Even that much he didn't have. He was so cruel that he couldn't even chant. So Narada Muni thought, okay, this is a very difficult case, this boy. So what shall I do? I shall give him to chant the opposite mantra. He told him, chant Mara, not Rama, Mara. So he said, Mara. Mara means Prabhupada says dead body. So Mara, you keep chanting, become Rama. So like this, he started chanting Rama. That way, he was initiated and he became a great sage. So for 60,000 years, he meditated simply on Rama, and he was liberated and he wrote this Ramayana. So what was the devotional component here? the intention for this Valmiki, we don't know what his intention was. Narada Muni had very interesting intentions for this person. But there was surely a devotional component, that is chanting the holy names. Even for us, what is our austerity? Yes, externally the austerity is following regulative principles, controlling sense gratification. But the chief austerity given to us is chanting the holy names. The holy names itself will purify us. So as I mentioned, Valmiki is derived from the term Valmika or anthill. And similar to Hiranyakashipu, he was also very oblivious to his surroundings. He didn't even realize that an anthill was formed around him. So that was the intensity of his tapasya. But however, he was also doing intense tapasya like Hiranyakashipu. However, there was a difference. He was infused with the association and mercy of Narada Muni and the strength of the holy names. So it was a devotional endeavor. It was a devotional austerity, unlike our Hiranyakashipu in this verse. So the goal intended and the process involved was very, very devotional in the case of Valmiki. Now, one more kind of austerity that we all do besides chanting the holy names and following the 4 regulative principles is fasting on Ekadasi. Now, fasting on Ekadasi also, it is done for the pleasure of Vishnu. There is a devotional component there. Vishnu says, fasting on Ekadasi is pleasing to me. So to please Vishnu, we perform fasting on Ekadasi. I cannot speak much about fasting because I tend to feast on Ekadasi, even if it is Ekadasi Prasadam. But the idea is it is pleasing to Vishnu. So, it results in purification. You all might have heard about so many stories from Ekadashi Mahatmya that talks about how accidentally somebody performed Ekadasi Vrata. They performed serious Vrata, of course. And they got immense benefit. Their heart was purified and they even got liberated just by performing accidental tapasya that is devotional. So therefore, such a tapasya is called as tapodivyam, like Rishabhadev says, and it is executed purely for the pleasure of Krishna, and the tapasya itself involves one of the limbs of devotional service. You all know there is Navavida Bhakti, 9 limbs of devotional service. The tapasya that we all do, simple tapasya, we don't do tapasya like Hiranyakashipu, but very simple tapasya. Even in that simple tapasya, there are elements of devotional service like chanting and hearing, thinking, feeling for the pleasure of Vishnu. That way, our tapasya becomes purified, and even unknowingly if we perform, there is some purification that may lead to the point of perfection. However, now we are going to discuss a slightly different tangential aspect of austerity, which is dry austerity. A person may not be Hiranyakashipu, where he wants to destroy everything and he wants to take over and he wants to become eternal. But still, there are many people who are not doing devotional austerities, but they do dry austerities. What happens when a person does dry austerities? Their heart hardens as a process of dry austerities, and it becomes more and more troublesome for their life. And who are the examples of dry austerities? Famous examples are Shaubhari Rishi and Durvasa Muni. Now, Shaubhari Rishi, 9th canto. As we proceed to the 9th canto, we will read the story of Shaubhari, but already many of you know the story of Shaubhari because he also appeared in the story of Kalya, very famous story, right? So everybody knows. Now, this Shaubhari, he was engaged in austerity. He was deep in the water in the river Yamuna. And what happened to him? Because his austerity per se was not really devotional, when he saw a pair of fish engaged in family affairs, he perceived the pleasure of such life. This life is going to be great. And induced by this desire, he went to the king there, who was King Mandata. Mandata had 50 daughters, and he asked these 50 daughters in marriage, and he marries all of them, and he expands into 50. He expands into multiple Shaubharis. He takes different mystic forms and he enjoys with all these daughters for a very, very long time. And he forgets what he was doing. He was such a great tapasvi. He was doing so much austerity. And he was thinking that that austerity is going to take him to a higher state of consciousness. But rather, he ended up having a great, you can't say fall down, but a temporary slip for some time. Later, of course, he perfects his life. So this is the effect of dry austerity. And one more case is that of Durvasa. But in the Durvasa story, the Lord talks about this kind of dry austerity. The Lord, if you see in 9th canto, chapter 4, verse number 70, translation and purport, these are the words of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord himself, he looks at Durvasa and he tells him, for a Brahmana, this is a very serious instruction. For a Brahmana, austerity and learning are certainly auspicious. But when acquired by a person who's not gentle, such austerity and learning are most dangerous. So we should have the right attitude. That is what Krishna is insisting in that verse. And Prabhupada says, it is said that a jewel is very valuable, but when it is on the head of a serpent, you all know that then there is great treasure, it is guarded by snakes, right? So when it is on the head of a serpent, it is dangerous despite its value. It might be very attractive, but a jewel on the head of a serpent is definitely dangerous. Similarly, when a materialistic non-devotee achieves great success in learning and austerity, that success is dangerous for all of society. The so-called scientists are an example. What did they do? They invented atomic weapons that are dangerous for all humanity. It is therefore said, Manina Bhushita Sarpa Kim Masauna Bhayankara. A serpent with a jewel on his hood is as dangerous as a serpent without such a jewel. So Durvasa Muni was a very learned Durvasa Muni was a very learned Brahmin, equipped with mystic power. But because he was not a gentleman, he did not know how to use his power. He was therefore extremely dangerous. Very important lesson Prabhupada gives is that, yeah, austerity is fine, but you should be a gentleman to perform austerity. If you're not a gentleman and you're performing austerities, if your intentions are not good, if your character as such is not so great, then if you're performing austerities, then it is only an impediment for everybody, not only for you, but also for the entire society. So he says, because he was not a gentleman, he did not know how to use his power. With power comes responsibility. With austerity, you might get power, but with power comes responsibility. And with that responsibility, you should know how to use what you have obtained from that austerity. But Durvasa did not know how to use his power. He was therefore extremely dangerous. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is never inclined towards a dangerous person who uses his mystic power for some personal design. Oh, beautiful words by Prabhupada. He gets very poetic sometimes. So he says, Prabhupada says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is never inclined towards a dangerous person who uses his mystic power for some personal design. By the laws of nature, therefore, such misuse of power is ultimately dangerous, not for society only, but for a person who misuses it. So it is dangerous for everybody. Who does austerity? How they do austerity. Now we'll go to the fourth point highlighted in the purport, which is one who performs severe austerities for sense gratification is fearful to the entire world, whereas a devotee who performs even a slight amount of devotional service is a friend to everyone. Suhridam sarva bhutanam. In this purport, Prabhupada says, one who performs severe austerities for sense gratification is fearful to the world, whereas a devotee who performs even a slight amount of devotional service is a friend to everyone. And then later, of course, he makes a comparison between Prahalad and Hiranyakashipu in this purport. But let's just focus on this particular point and make some comparison between a person who performs devotional service and a person who just performs some austerity for self-gratification. So to understand that, let's see what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, when he talks about austerity in chapter 17, verses 5 and 6, he says, those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish and who torture the material elements of the body, as well as the super soul dwelling within, are known to be demons. This is a direct statement by Prabhupada. If you are performing, not by Prabhupada, by Krishna, sorry. Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, if you are performing some kind of an austerity because of pride, because of ego, if you are impelled by lust and attachment, if you are torturing yourself, torture of the body is not an austerity. Doing self-torture, you have these stories of some demons, they cut off their head and they put it in the fire sacrifice, they pluck their eyes. So such kind of austerities where it involves torture of the body, they start, walking on fire, they do all this, such kind of torture, which is not recommended in Shastras. Shastras may not recommend such kind of torture. If you are doing such torture to your body, you're also harming the super soul within. The super soul also feels so much if you're torturing the bodily elements. So he says, such a person is foolish and they are called as demons. This is what Hiranyakashipu as well is. Foolish and he's a demon. So austerity can be carried out in the mode of passion, ignorance, or goodness. And a classic example of this were the three brothers, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana. Three brothers, they also performed austerities. Actually, in Ramayana, in the Uttarakanda, there is a section of how Ravana actually got boons. Ravana, when he saw his half-brother, Kuvera, having such great opulences, like flying in the airplane and having this Lanka island for himself, and he was very, very successful. He had become a Lokapalaka. At that time, Ravana thought, even I want to have a position greater than my brother. I want to have more opulences. I want that Pushpak Viman. He thought like that, and he wanted to perform great austerities to become immortal. That was the reason why Ravana was performing austerities. So similarly, he decided he will perform austerities, and he asked his two brothers, Vibhishan and Kumbhakarna, also to join him to perform austerities towards Brahma, so that they could receive boons from Brahma. So the three of them, they performed very intense austerities, and later when Brahma appeared in front of them to give boons, like how Brahma appeared here in front of Hiranyakashipu to give boons, at that time Ravana asked for immortality, just like Hiranyakashipu. He wanted to become immortal. And of course, Brahma says that there is no question of being immortal, and even I am not immortal. So he said, ask for something else. And at that time, Ravana, thinking that he's very intelligent, just like how Hiranyakashipu, thinking that he's very intelligent, is going to ask something very soon. Ravana said, I want death. I don't want death, sorry. I want to be immune to death from people like Nagas, Daityas, Danavas, Rakshasas, Suparnas, Devtas, all of them. And he says, I'm not very scared of human beings and monkeys or vanaras. They are insignificant like a straw. So it's okay, except for the humans and the vanaras, no one else should actually kill me. So this is in the mode of passion. Why it's in the mode of passion? Because he wanted to become immortal. He wanted to save his position. He wanted to become very, very powerful. That was his intention. Now you look at the case of Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna, okay, let's not look at Kumbhakarna. Let's first look at Vibhishana. Okay, Vibhishan. When Brahma looked at Vibhishan, Brahma himself made the offer. Vibhishan didn't even ask what he wanted. Brahma made the offer. So Brahma looked at Vibhishan and he told Vibhishan, my dear Vibhishan, you're so virtuous. You are so virtuous, so you ask me for any boon you want. At that time, Vibhishan said, the only boon that I want from you, Brahma, is that even when I am in the greatest of all difficulties, my mind should stand steady by dharma. I should always follow the path of dharma. I should not get bewildered. I should be in the righteous path. And of course, he asks for the knowledge of the Brahmastra. But the key here is that Vibhishana's intentions were in the mood of goodness. He said, I just want to be a righteous person. That's all. I want to stand by Dharma. And that is the reason he stands by Paro Dharma, that is serving the Supreme Lord. He goes and he surrenders to the Supreme Lord. This is because he had the intention, I want to be a good person. I want to be righteous. So give me a boon that even under trying circumstances, because under trials and tribulations, one's mind may change. So he says, even under such circumstances, I should remain steady and I should remain a devotee and I should serve only the side of Dharma. Now, when Kumbhakarna was ready to ask his boon, Brahma turned towards Kumbhakarna. And at that time, all the demigods, who were surrounding Brahma, they all told Brahma, please don't give him any boons. Even if he begs for boons, don't give him any boons. Because this guy, he will eat up everybody. He's creating a lot of havoc already. He was a Rakshasa. He would eat people alive. That kind of Rakshasa. He would eat tons of people. So all the demigods, they got really scared. They said, please don't give him any boon. Do something. He's asking for boons, but don't even yield to anything that he asks. He's already created enough problems. So at that time, Brahma thinks of his consort Saraswati, and Saraswati modifies the speech of Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna was in the mode of ignorance. He asked for nirdevatvam. That was his request. He wanted a world without the devas. That is the mode of ignorance. Nobody else should exist, only I will exist. Like that. So he decided, he wanted to ask, O Brahma, give me a world of nirdevatvam. Let all the devas vanquish from this world. But then by the mercy of Saraswati, that became nidrevatvam, nidraevatvam. That means just give me only sleep. So it was modified, and then of course Ravana intervenes, and he himself was shocked. Kumbhakarna was shocked. What did I just say? But then Ravana intervenes and he says, don't make him to sleep forever. At least let him wake up once in 6 months. So this is the verse from Bhagavad Gita that talks about what kind of austerity. Austerity should be shastric. It should be recommended in Shastra. You should not torture the elements of your body voluntarily. That is something that Krishna recommends. And we saw austerity in 3 modes. And we should all be like Vibhishan, austerity in the mode of goodness, and just not goodness. We should include Krishna consciousness in the austerity. Finally, I want to make a comparison between Durvasa and Ambarish. 2 people who had an encounter, head-on encounter, and both of them were performing austerity. Ambarish, Durvasa, they met each other. Both of them were performing austerity. One person's austerity was devotional, while the other one's austerities was dry austerities. Why dry? It did not have devotional components. So it is called as dry austerities. Just like how we saw Shaubari, I told you I will tell you one more example, that is Durvasa. Durvasa was also performing dry austerities. Dry austerities will not purify the heart. It will only harden the heart. Okay. For that story, again in the 9th canto, chapter 4, there is a verse that glorifies Ambarish Maharaj, saying Ambarish Maharaj performed severe austerity. The word itself says tapoyuktena. He performed austerity. What is that word? It says Sa itham bhakti yogena tapoyuktena parthiva swadharmena harim prinan sarvan kaman shanai jahau. The king of this planet, Maharaj Ambarish, thus performed devotional service to the Lord, and in this endeavor, he practiced very severe austerity. Actually, he was doing Ekadashi fast. He lived in the place of Mathura and he followed the Ekadashi Vrata for 1 year. At the end of 1 year, on the Dwadashi, Then he wanted to break his fast. That is when Durvasa comes. Durvasa is also known for performing great austerities. So Ambarish Maharaj, he was always satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his constitutional activities, and he gave up material desires while he was performing this severe austerity. This is the verse in Bhagavatam, verse number 26 of chapter 4, canto 9. Prabhupada in the purport, he says something very interesting. He says, severe austerities in the practice of devotional service are of many varieties. For example, what are austerities? Prabhupada's definition of austerities. For example, in worshipping the deity in the temple, it is certainly a laborious activity. Prabhupada says even worshipping deities in the temple is very laborious. Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shringara Tanmandiramachananda. One must decorate the deity, one must cleanse the temple, bring water from the Ganga and Yamuna, continue to do routine work, perform arati many times, prepare first-class food for the deity, prepare dresses, and so on. In this way, one must constantly be engaged in various activities. It is a very hard labor, and it is certainly an austerity. Similarly, there is hard labor involved in preaching, preparing literature, preaching to atheistic men, distributing literature door to door. This is also austerity. Tapo yuktena, tapo divyam. Such austerity is necessary. Yena sattvam shuddhaye. By such austerity in devotional service, one is purified of material existence. Kaman shanair jahav. This is the verse 551 of Rishabdev. Indeed, such austerity leads to the constitutional position of devotional service. In this way, one can give up material desires, and as soon as one is free from material desires, he is free from the repetition of birth, death, old age, and disease. See how beautiful the Krishna conscious process is. The Krishna conscious process has natural austerities that is enjoyable. Performing deity worship, preaching activities, distributing Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says all this is also austerity. Not only is austerity chanting the holy names and following Ekadashi, not only these are austerity or following regulator principles, even doing your daily devotional activities is laborious. It's not easy. That austerity is so beautiful that it will end up purifying you. You don't have to stand in that like a column like Dhruva Maharaj, or you don't have to stand with your hands raised up like Hiranyakashipu with an anthill around you. Just do these simple austerities, and this will result in purification, and it will give you liberation as well. It will completely free you from this world. Okay, coming back to Ambarish, I got a little diverted. So anyway, Ambarish. So he was performing austerity mixed with devotion, meaning he had devotional service components in it. So what happened as a result? He was so pure, he was free of material contamination, that the Lord became very pleased with him. What did the Lord do? The Lord, being very pleased with the unalloyed devotion of Ambarish Maharaj, gave him his own Sudarshan disc. He told, okay, Ambarish, I give you the Sudarshan disc. And this Sudarshan disc is fearful to enemies, but it always protects the devotee from adversities. So Maharaj Ambarish, because he was completely engaged in devotional austerity, the Lord was ready to even give his Sudarshan disc to Ambarish Maharaj. Now, how was his opponent, or not opponent, but how was Durvasa Muni, who came to actually eat at the end of that 1 year fasting, 1 year cycle of fasting? Durvasa Muni comes to eat a feast. Maharaj Ambarish invites him and he says, okay, he will come. How was Durvasa Muni? Comparison is made. This is verse number 37 in the same chapter. It says, Durvasa Muni gladly accepted the request of Ambarish Maharaj, but to perform the regulative ritualistic ceremonies, he went to the river Yamuna. He dipped there in the water of the auspicious Yamuna, and what did he do as an austerity? He meditated. Meditated on what? Was it devotional? No. He meditated on the impersonal Brahman for a very long time. So much so that he lost track of time. Okay. He was invited for a feast. He had to go at the time of Paran, at the time of breaking the fast. But what did he do? He was involved in austerity, that is fine, but the austerity was on the impersonal Brahman. Too much dry austerities makes a man hungry and angry. So Durvasa became a hungry, angry man, and still hungry, Durvasa, with his body trembling and his face curved and his eyes crooked with a frown, he came back and he angrily spoke to Ambarish Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands. Ambarish also did austerities. But what was Ambarish's demeanor? He stood in front of Durvasa with folded hands. What was Durvasa's demeanor? He was angry. His face was trembling. His face was curved. His eyebrows were crooked. He had a frown. And he started cursing Ambarish. He said, look at this cruel man. He's posing to be a devotee of Vishnu. He's very proud of his materialistic position. He has transgressed the laws of religion. Oh, Maharaj Ambarish, you invited me to eat, but instead of feeding me, you have eaten first. Because of this misbehavior, I am going to punish you. So in so much anger, Durvasa, he takes out a hair from his head and he creates a fiery demon. And this fiery demon, with a trident in his hand, making the earth tremble, he came before Ambarish to attack Ambarish. But then what happened? Ambarish, when he was seeing this fiery demon approach him, Ambarish had become so purified by the element of devotion and in his austerity that he was not slightly disturbed. Bhagavatam says he was folding his hands and just watching. He said, okay, whatever it may be, I'm ready. My Guru Maharaj, he says that there could have been different reactions for Ambarish. Ambarish could have counter-cursed Durvasa, could have attacked him again because he was a great Rajarishi himself. He could have counteracted. Ambarish could have ran away from that spot. The minute he sees that fiery demon, if it was me, I would have just run away. I mean, why would I be standing there holding my palm? But Ambarish chose to just do that. That was the kind of purification Ambarish had at that point in time. He was completely surrendered to the Lord. And what happened immediately? The Lord took action. Just like how a fire in a forest immediately burns to ashes an angry snake. So, by the previous order of the Supreme Lord, his disc, the Sudarshan Chakra, immediately burnt into ashes that demon that was created by Durvasa to protect his devotee. And the Sudarshan Chakra started chasing Durvasa. Now, was Durvasa seeing the Sudarshan Chakra coming towards him? Was Durvasa folding his hands and standing like that? No. The result of dry austerities. Sudarshan Chakra chased Durvasa and Durvasa just took off. He started running. He ran throughout the universe for what? Just to save his life. As Sudarshan was following him, in fact, Sudarshan was almost touching the back of Durvasa. But Durvasa ran so swiftly. He ran through the entire universe, going to different demigods, asking for shelter. And in one purport, so nice, this verses, purport of Prabhupada are so brilliant, Prabhupada says, Durvasa was certainly a great Brahmana, but because he was a non-devotee, he could not sacrifice everything in devotional service. Great mystic yogis are actually self-interested. Great mystic yogis are self-interested. The proof is that when Durvas Muni created a demon to kill Maharaj Ambarish, the king stayed fixed in his place, praying to the Supreme Lord and depending solely and wholly on the Lord. He could have retaliated. He could have ran away like Durvas, but he could have even cursed Durvasa Muni. But he just stood there looking at the Lord's protection. Whereas Durvasa Muni, when he was chased by Sudarshan Chakra, by the supreme will of the Lord, he was so perturbed that he had fled all over the world and he tried to take shelter at every nook and corner of the universe. At last, in fear of his life, he approached Brahma, Lord Shiva, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada says he was so clearly interested in his own body that he wanted to kill the body of a Vaishnava. Therefore, he did not have any good intelligence. And how can an unintelligent person be delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead? the Lord certainly gives all protection to his devotees who have given up everything for the sake of serving him. So this is the comparison between a person who performs devotional austerity and a person who performs either austerities for his own pleasure, for his own seeking a material benefit, or a person who performs dry austerity. Now, the final point is Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam. Prabhupada says in the purport, Bhakti is therefore called Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam, indicating that a devotee is freed from material designation, and Anyabhilashita Shunyam, situated in transcendental position, freed from all material desires. This is the beauty of devotional service. Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. Bhakti Rasamrat Sindhu. What is Bhakti Rasamrat Sindhu telling? Bhakti Rasamrat Sindhu says, Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all senses. So when the spirit soul renders service to the Supreme, there are two side effects. What are the two side effects? One is freed from material designation, and one's senses are purified because they are engaged in the service of the Lord. So there is Swarupa Lakshana and Tatastha Lakshana. What is the Swarupa Lakshana of this verse? What is the intrinsic nature of Bhakti? It is Anukulena Krishnanu Shilanam. That means the endeavor is to please Krishna. That is Swarup Lakshana of Bhakti. At the same time, one should know what has to be avoided. That is the Tatastha Lakshana, or the marginal characteristic of Bhakti. That is Anya Abhilashita Shunyam, without other desires. Jnana Karmadi Anavratam, without jnana and karma. So just by following the principle laid down in this verse for Bhakti, one can perform austerity. One can perform simple austerity that is pleasing to Krishna. So this verse also stresses something very, very important, that by performing such austerities, one should not become proud. Sarva Upadi Vinirmuktam. Upadi means designation. One should be free of designation. I am performing this austerity. See, I am so great, I can perform this austerity unlike other devotees. So if one becomes proud because of austerities, then that is also a danger. And this is actually reflected in the story of the milk drinking brahmachari that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastises. You all know that story, right? There was a brahmachari who was subsisting on milk, and he wanted to see the dance of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya said, I'm not feeling any pleasure today. Did someone come? He asked Srivas. And Srivas admits that there was a great Brahmana doing great austerity of just surviving on milk, such a great austerity. And Lord Chaitanya chastises him and tells, I cannot be obtained just because you're doing some austerity, just because you're drinking milk. That doesn't purchase me. What really purchases me is true humility, love, and devotion. That is the only thing that will purchase me. So the underlying lesson for everybody, all of us here, is that we can understand that yes, austerity is fine. We perform devotional austerity, but it's very important to have the mood of humility and true devotion when we perform such kind of austerity. So I'll stop here. I went terribly over time, and my apologies for that. I'm not going to recite the story of the milk drinking brahmachari, but we will stop here and take questions if there is time for everyone.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. What a beautiful class, what a beautiful class. You elaborated so much, so many points I was continue writing down. And you were, by yourself, you were taking out the questions from the class. Oh, is tapa needed? And then you elaborated on that. And then why about Hiranyakashipu as a demon doing tapa? And then you elaborated on that. And beautiful comparison between Dhruva you did and Hiranyakashipu tapasya, very beautiful. And then you bring in Valmiki and you explained what the anthill means, and then you narrated the story of Valmiki in one single class, and you did not stop there. You gave different references from different shlokas from Srimad Bhagavatam, very beautiful. And then you did not stop there. I thought Mataji will stop. You went ahead and then you did give the reference of Marut, son of Sthiti, and you explained how the devotee association is so beautiful, such a beautiful class, and you still did not stop. You went ahead with the Ramayan characters. I was looking at the clock. I'm like, okay, Mataji, this is the last story. No, and that was so beautiful too, Mataji. You talked about uh, our Ravana and the brothers, and it was so beautiful how you even explained, Saraswati Mata came and and the the whatever he asked was being converted. So beautiful, so beautiful. And you did not stop even there, Mataji. You went ahead. You went ahead with the Ambarish and Durvasa Muni, and such a beautiful comparison. How Ambarish stood and Durvasa Muni ran. That is just, it's just stuck in my mind. So beautiful when you are pure and you know your austerities and your Krishna is with you. So beautiful. He just stood there, and Durvasa ran, who was actually the biggest of the sages. And you did not stop there, Mataji.
When I stopped, when I really wanted to narrate the story of the milk drinking brahmachari, it was very dramatic. But then I held my horses looking at the time.
I was thinking, I'm like, oh, there is one more story.
Complete that story, that Mataji.
Yes, please. We want to hear.
Yes, we want to hear.
Oh yeah, but everyone has to go to work, including myself.
Yes, I think
Mataji,
everybody has
complete
to
that,
go to-
Mataji.
So,
No, I told that, Mataji. In short, I told.
yes,
So finally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that it is the mood and the devotion that is important, yes, rather than just the austerity per se. So basically, don't be proud just because we can do some austerity. That's the idea. Yeah.
true. And it should be for ourselves. If we are doing 64 or 128 rounds in Ekadashi, it should be for ourselves. That's also the thing, Austerities is not to show other people that I'm drinking milk and surviving on it. That was a beautiful, beautiful point, Mataji. And I was also thinking, like Hiranyakashipu is under this ant thing. I was thinking even I sometime, under my blanket, I get, nobody can see me. I go deep in deep meditation, Mataji. Still, I don't leave my bead bag. It's in my hand. I'm sleeping.
Everybody's story, right?
Everybody's
Everything
story.
is
Okay.
coming out now.
I think I was a small here next. Okay.
நாளைக்கு நான் வரும்போது ஊசி வாங்கிட்டு வரேன் அது 18ஆம் நம்பரா 16ஆம் நம்பரான்னு பிரபலாட்டு
Sure, Mataji. Sure. I understood that.
16 number will go with. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what is that, Mataji, but should be good comments for me. Okay, dear devotees, that was such a beautiful class. Mataji, oh, I already see some hands raised here, Mataji. So with your permission, we will go to the question session because later everybody has to go to work. Even Mataji has to go to work. She already said that. Hari Bol, Sukar Krishna Prabhu, Dhanvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam, Parabhadra Prabhu. Today I had some meeting by cancer. It is Mataji's club, it was just cancelled and came. And you did such, there's nothing that Prabhu has told everything. But I like one thing, how Ravana, Kumbhakarna and Vibhishana, three brothers, same father, mother. One is in total goodness. Kumbhakarna in ignorance and Ravana in passion. And same Diti and Diti also same, no? Same sisters, but one is completely this way. And this one, what you were telling about this Ambarish Maharaj, actually, Prabhupada in one lecture has told that Ambarish Maharaj, when he did, Krishna wanted to show him that to pure devotees, the what is that? The Sudarshan Chakra did not come. They are left with them only. So the moment the Durvasamani did it, it went and wanted to cut that person. And so that was the point which came in my mind. And then everything you just kept on telling that I didn't miss it. Anything my grandson had come, I said, please don't disturb me. I want to listen. Thank you, Mataji, so much. Today evening I have to come for the class. I don't know, I'm not prepared well, but I'm trying to do something.
We are
Bhagavad
waiting.
Gita 11 chapters.
We are waiting for it. I think everybody on the call is waiting for the mid-morning class now.
Very well. Mataji, I don't know the technical part. You have to help me. That two,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
too
we will help,
loaded.
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu, we will help. We will have 2 computers, one for work and one for Sukakar, Prabhu.
Hari bol, Hari bol.
So nice, Mataji. You have more classes like this. Very elaborate and technical, totally analytical type. And with so much takeaways.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So true, Prabhuji. Agree. Very beautiful class. So many points that, we can just meditate on. Thank you, Sukar Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Darshini
Thank you.
Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Shri Prabhupada. Mataji, I'm so happy after a very long time getting to hear your class again. I had like very insignificant reflections, Mataji, if I can share it. Like,
Yes, please go ahead.
first thing you were, mentioning about the jewel of the serpent, right? I was thinking even of Ashwatthama's example also. Like, he was trained in so many things and even to release a Brahmastra also, but because he was not in the right consciousness, it was not given to the right person, he misused the Brahmastra, right? So I was
Right.
thinking of the mentality of Ashwatthama there.
Very
And then you were talking about this torture of the super soul by austerity. Like, sometimes because we think, we are this body, we take it for granted. Like, my body, I can give pain to my body. So what? But we don't think that, Krishna's sitting in my body. Krishna's also going through pain for me. Right. So that's one thing, like, we are thinking that, I'll put Krishna to pain, it's okay, but, I will perform this. And that's like, completely opposite of samsiddhir tosanam. So that
beautiful,
was one.
beautiful.
So that was one thing I was thinking of. And then, I really like the point that, you mentioned about the austerities that we performed, right? It should be checked by a guru, like especially for Dhruva Maharaj and all, the austerity was given by Narada Muni. He did not create his own austerity and say that, I will do this. Narada Muni came and gave him the austerity and he performed, and therefore he has achieved perfection. But it was not like that for Hiranyakashipu. So I was thinking about those lines.
Lovely.
And then, you were like asking about like, Ravana, telling about Ravana's asking, for benediction, right? Like, I'm not scared about vanaras and human beings. So I was thinking like, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions, right? A scholar sees everyone equally. He does not see the body, if it's a dog eater or a human or an elephant or an animal. He sees everyone equally, and that was lacking in Ravana. So I was just thinking on that particular verse that, we can't claim Ravana to be a scholar on the basis of Bhagavad Gita itself, because he himself is not, he's not knowing, and it's not practicing also, because if he knew, he wouldn't have, skipped humans and vanaras and said that, they are very insignificant. I'm not scared of them.
Correct. Like Hiranyakashipu. He appears scholarly in the previous chapter, and now he's doing something totally contrary. Yes, very nice. Very nice. You have
And then I was
action. Yes, go ahead.
No, Mataji. No. Mataji, and then you were, talking about giving up material desires through tapasya, right? And especially in Kali Yuga, we see that, most of the, like, I'm not telling an ISKCON, but like, when we see the outer world, like most of the vrat and everything that they keep is to increase material desires, right? It's not for like giving up material desires. It's to increase material desires. It's to increase the fulfillment. And, that never comes to an end, After the vrat also, we feel so tired, and it's like, God, why did I even keep this vrat? And your desires increase more. Your desires increase more after the vrat than, having, reduce your material desires. But, on the contrary, we see like in the Ekadashi's vrat, the vrat that we keep for the acharyas and all, it's so purificatory, and we feel so fulfilled after keeping the vrat. We feel like, we have given a part of us to them at that point of time after completing the vrat. So I was thinking on that. And then you were talking about Durvasa Muni's tapasya, right? That it made him hungry and angry. So I was thinking, I was just contrasting that with our Goswamis, right? Even our Goswamis did so much tapasya. Raghunath Das Goswami, like, he would eat only once, he would just have buttermilk once in 3 days, but it never made him hungry or angry. In the other, on the contrary, when he had a bigger leaf plate to, and a little more buttermilk from his servant, he's like, no, I don't want, it's more. So I was just thinking, like, they are ready to give everything for Krishna, and because, they are in actual love, they are able to give up this. It's not that they are falsely giving up this, right? So it's just contrasting that with our Goswamis, like, how realized they were and how much of love they had, that, that love nourished them more than, food. Right. So I was thinking on that. And then, like, Durvasa Muni, when Ambarish Maharaj had released the Sudarshan Chakra, right? Like, I was just contrasting the example, like, when Durvasa Muni, created the demon, Ambarish Maharaj first itself took shelter of the Lord. that was the first thing that he did. But for Durvasa Muni, he went to everything and last he went to God. So that itself, is like, contrasting between, Sharanagati, right? First we go to Lord, but here, he's trying all other things and then at last he's going to God. So the trust factor, the faith factor that we have on Krishna should be that, we should, first itself, we should take, shelter of Krishna.
Very
And yeah, and the last thing, Mataji, I was just remembering this, incident by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, regarding the Ekadashi fasting. Like once, regarding someone asking him that, Maharaj today is Nirjal Ekadashi fasting and that devotee is eating an Ekadashi pizza. And, we are not even supposed to have water today. And Maharaj said, that person's stomach is feasting, but his ego is fasting. But for you, your ego is feasting and your stomach is fasting. So I just remember this. So thank you so much, Mataji. Yeah. And your milk and brahmachari example, I really loved it because, like, just 1 week ago, I heard that from Maharaj. Like in 2 different classes, Maharaj mentioned the story. So thank you so much, Mataji, for the wonderful class.
Thank you. Your reflections completed the class. Class was incomplete. Correct, Raj Prabhu. Balabhadra Prabhu.
I am thinking, yeah, Mataji, I am thinking Darshani Mataji ने दर्शन तो नहीं दिए लेकिन what are reflections, amazing, amazing, amazing. Wow, Jai Darshani Mataji. No, beautiful reflections. I was also thinking about, she was speaking and I'm thinking, wow, wow, wow. I was also thinking about Kansa, he's killing the kids of Devaki, but he's talking about soul, body. Usko pata hai, but he's a demon. It's different consciousness they are in. Very beautiful, Mataji. Please, उनको हाथ नीचे चला गया. Mataji, please give your association very, very, very beautiful points, very beautiful reflections. And this is, this is how we should listen and we should reflect and, contemplate on these kathas, and then the katha is complete. Very beautiful, Mataji. Our very dear Komodiki Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. And Balabhadra Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. See, we are talking about the austerity, but I don't do any austerity. On Ekadashi, I don't fast. I just take grain. I don't just eat, no grains and beans and like that, but only vegetables and fruits and some quinoa and things like that. It fills me up. So then I don't. So I'm not doing any austerity. Just chanting 16 rounds. I'm not chanting more than that. So please give me some mercy, so I can at least chant more.
Mataji, Mataji, at this point in time in your life, you're telling you're not doing austerity, and the same thing. Even I don't do any austerity. For me, I bank on purports of Srila Prabhupada that say that just following Krishna consciousness is enough austerity. Just following regulative principles, chanting 16 rounds, doing our arati, taking care of the deities, preaching, that itself is austerity. I bank on that purport, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. But give me some, maybe you may not want to give blessing, but at least just wish that I can do 10 more rounds.
I will definitely pray, Mataji. I will also pray for you. I will pray for myself.
Thank you.
That we are all able to chant. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Komodiki Mataji. Actually, you have to bless all of us so we can do our bhakti regularly. So thank you, Mataji, for staying behind us, actually. Our very dear and the best coordinator, I should say, Vinita Mataji. Hari bol. Vinita Mataji,
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna.
pranam.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Very, very beautiful class, Mataji. Thank you so much. In the last minute, also so much of preparation happened. Very grateful to you, Mataji. I also liked that. I was reflecting on this point that whoever went, did austerity and got the right results out of it, had a guru and followed guru, and their worshipable deity is the supreme personality of Godhead, not anything else. Then you get the proper results, even though your intentions is wrong in that line. That intentions are purified, otherwise it is not purified. The enviousness, everything trying to achieve something against the scriptures, it will not fulfill, but then it will increase years after increase. But then our goal and following the rules, regulations given by Guru and practicing devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead will help us. Thank you, Mataji, for giving various examples and making us understand. Very, very grateful to you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for your encouragement and presence. Hare Krishna. And opportunity, of course.
Thank you, Vinita Mataji. No, Mataji, I think you should give often classes on Srimad Bhagavatam. This is my personal view also. It was such a beautiful class. Sukar Krishna Prabhu, you have another question or reflection for Mataji? Or you are just blessing us?
No. Mataji, I was just telling, you were telling about Prahlad Maharaj who was doing tapasya. And his father also did tapasya. The difference was, Prahlad Maharaj was totally under surrender of Krishna and he had no false ego, nothing, no envy. But Hiranyakashipu, he did everything for Brahma with one leg, anthill and everything. But inside, he had full of desires to enjoy, to become king, to kill also Vishnu. So that is the total contrasting things. That was a good point. It came out. That's why the demands fail.
Yeah. Like she said, ego is feasting and the body is fasting. I said, I wanted to write down whatever Darshini Mataji said. I should have written it down. Maybe Mataji, you can send a text message to all of us.
Yes, Mataji, I'll send it to you personally. Mataji, I'll be so happy to serve you. I'm waiting for an opportunity to talk to you all the time. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji, you can send the text message here in the chat box so we all can see that. Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji.
I can put in the description box in YouTube also whatever Mataji's reflections are there. We can refer from there too.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mataji. Anjana Gopika Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking last time I thought Anjana Gopika will come, Jahnavi came. This time I thought Jahnavi is going to come, Anjana Gopika came.
Mataji is so beautiful. Whole class is full of package, Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Prabhuji was saying, when Mataji gonna stop, I was thinking Mataji maybe never stop, That's all I continue only. This was listening so nice, Mataji. Thank you for coming and giving the class, Mataji.
Thank you for your darshan, Mataji. Been long since I saw you.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Anjana, somebody was eating in your house. Somebody was eating in your house. Some nice.
Oh, my daughter was taking a breakfast.
See that from Prasadam.
Yeah. And she likes Mataji's class. She doesn't want to miss.
Thank you, Anjana Gopika Mataji, for your coming and giving your blessings and compliments and love through this call. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Haribol. Thank you, all the devotee. Danat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for staying on the call. Our Indulekha Mataji is there. Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Hare Krishna Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Thank you so much. This is such a brilliant class. It's always Srimad Bhagavatam. You say that it's your favorite scripture, and so many examples, and you are able to correlate all of them so nicely. And how you took out the points from the purport, that's just amazing. So much to learn from you, Mataji. It was a wonderful class and so many instructions. Thank you so much, Mataji. And that too, it was at the last minute, and still you had so much to speak. And like what Anjana Mataji said, it's never going to end. You have so many reflections. So thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, we should not scare Raj Prabhu anymore. Balabhadra Prabhu will think, okay, this Mataji will go on talking.
I was thinking.
No, now Prabhuji has an expectation. Now he knows. Okay, when Preethi Vilasini Mataji comes for Bhagavatam class, she's not going to stop here. Not going to stop. Next. He needs to wait for the hour to be done.
That is what I was thinking. Is this a last-minute preparation, Mataji? So I will personally text Shamagori Mataji and tell her to always give you last-minute preparation. Otherwise, I have to stay here one hour extra.
No.
Haribol.
My
No,
God.
it was beautiful, Mataji. This shows, Mataji, how much hearing you have and how much you have in you, and that you can give out to all of us during Bhagavatam. This is so beautiful. Thank you, Mataji. Our very dear Anita Mataji, all the way from Dubai.
Goodbye.
Krishna
Yeah.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandal Pranams. Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandal Pranams, Mataji. What to say, Mataji? Everyone has covered up whatever I wanted to say. It was a very wonderful class indeed, Mataji. With all the pastimes, I was just thinking, means like the pastimes we hear and hear and hear and again, but when it comes from very pure devotees like you, so it's like in a new version I'm hearing. So it was like that. I felt like that. So thank you so much for that, Mataji. And for each and every in purport, for each and every sentence, I think you got some past tense. Like Balabhadra Prabhuji was also saying, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. So it was like that. So very, very nice past tense class, Mataji. Thank you so much for recapping all the past tense.
Thank you, Mataji. Definitely not pure or anything, but thank you for your sincere listening. It is the listener's heart that matters while absorbing something. So thanks to you. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Nita Mataji. No, it was such a beautiful class. I was continuously saying not stopping, not that I was not liking it. I was loving it. But in such a short time, giving all that essence related to a class is not easy. So there are many speakers here who speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, listening to it right now, and we can understand how difficult it is to put in a class with so many examples, to put them together and to give the essence of it in such a short class, in what it is, 1 hour or 10-20 minutes. It's beautiful. It's just unbelievable. So thank you, Mataji. Manjari Leela Devi Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Brother Kripa Prabhuji, and Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Such a wonderful class. I just wanted to really share my gratitude. It was such a wonderful class, Mataji, and as everyone is saying, it doesn't even look like there was no preparation, like it was last minute. I mean, you had, and as Balpradra Kripa Prabhu said, right? I was thinking, okay, it's gonna stop, but then you kept on going. There's so many different points that you brought out, the different types of austerities that people do, and then how austerity is not for our own self, or it's not for making our ego higher, by these or hard-hearted, right? Because when you become hard-hearted, that's basically you're feeding your ego. So this is like your class was just super amazing with all the different examples of not just one story or two stories. You gave so many different examples of the different types of austerities that people have done from the stories of Bhagavatam and Ramayana. So it was just so wonderful, fully packed class, Mataji. I'm so grateful for your association. Thank you so much for your association. And as Darshini Mataji's points, I was just, I guess, as you said, that was a complete icing on the cake, I guess, for all the reflections. I'm awed by this whole class, and I'm so grateful for this Bhakti Sangha platform too. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for your very nice presence on the call.
Actually, Preethi Mataji is a Bhagavatam personified. She didn't prepare at all. It is like so much Vibhata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. She just burps out, it comes out. She didn't read at all. It is there, total body, every cell is having Bhagavatam. So she doesn't, 12 o'clock you call her, she'll tell the class. She's there already.
No.
Am I right, Prabhu?
Very
Yes, absolutely right, Prabhuji.
Very true, Prabhuji. Very true. There is no doubt in that. It's not easy to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's not like we are praising her because she is from Bhakti Sangha, and we know it is because we love the class, we love the examples. It is because we can connect to it, and even though it was her last minute, I'm continue thinking still. She still was able to give a context how all this started, and how about it. It's beautiful. It's who otherwise sometimes speakers can say, "Oh, I have so much to speak," because she was thinking she has to speak so much. but she still was able to give a context before starting a class, go through all the purport of Srila Prabhupada, go through point by point. It's such a beautiful thing. So thank you so much, Mataji. Such a beautiful class. Very beautiful class. It was like a...
But reflections are all perfections. All reflections are perfections for us.
Hari bol. That's another Prabhuji line of the day. Reflections are perfections. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Mataji, very beautiful comment section too, Mataji.
Yeah, special thanks to you for making the mood so light. It was all about austerity, 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 but you made it so much fun. So thank you so much.
No, Mataji, I was not making fun. I was serious. When I have my blanket on, I am my Mataji, hide it. Nobody can find me. And I'm so much in deep meditation. I beat Hiranyakashipu, Mataji.
Even your seriousness is so much fun, Prabhu. Then what you talk of fun?
It is so much of happiness from inside by hearing. He's only reflecting the happiness coming out of the heart. Machitta madgadapada, bodhenda parasparam. That's all.
And I was happy to listen to the Manjari Ila Mataji comment that she was also the one who was thinking Mataji is not finishing. So I was not the only one. Thank you, Mataji, for supporting my side. So, dear devotees, Mataji, I don't, there are so many comments in the chat box. I'm not going to read all of them. Everybody's praising the class, Indulekha Mataji, Vrinda Gopika Mataji.
Mataji, you can keep continuing and finish
Dinabandhu
my class
Prabhuji
also. You can continue my class also today. So much you have to tell, you can continue today.
No, I don't know anything about the chapter, Prabhu. You only have to come.
Okay. So, dear devotees, nobody has any more questions and reflections. So, let us pay our humble obeisances to Mataji and all the assembled devotees. Vancha Kalaptaru. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जगत गुरु शीला प्रभुपाद जी की हर ग्रेस प्रीति विलासिनी माता जी की
Thank
you, Mataji.
so much, Mataji. Wonderful class.
Pranam. Thank you, Mataji.
Gauranga, Gauranga, Nityananda. Jai Shri Radhe Shyam.